Tonight, what the American military retreat from Syria could mean for those on the ground in the region as the outcry grows over the president's surprise move. Plus, historic arguments at the Supreme Court. How today's hearings could affect the balance between religious rights and gay rights in America. And we go to Capitol Hill for the latest on the impeachment inquiry against President Trump. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Sharp new warnings against the government of Turkey. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Well, many in Washington are unhappy with President Trump's sudden decision on Syria. Now they have a new message as Turkey eyes an incursion on Kurdish-led forces there. Senator Lindsey Graham tweeting, "If Turkey moves into northern Syria, sanctions from hell by Congress will follow. Wide, deep, and devastating sanctions."
And that warning coming today, just hours after the president announced he is inviting Turkish President Erdogan to visit the White House. CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with more. Ben?
Well, Jenna, we'll wait and see how things go leading up to that November 13th meeting here at the White House with Turkey's president. At this point, it is still on. But Trump says, look, it is a small group of U.S. troops and that the U.S. cannot get trapped in, quote, endless wars. In an attempt to quiet his critics, Trump said if Turkey does anything he considers, quote, off limits, he would crush its economy. Acting on President Trump's orders, U.S. forces left a key part of Syria.
At some point, we have to bring our people back home, and that's what we're doing.
Is it a firm decision, sir?
It's always a firm decision.
But that firm decision is seen as a betrayal to Kurdish allies who have long relied on American troops to fight ISIS. Trump tweeting today, "Understand that while we only had 50 soldiers remaining in that section of Syria and they have been removed, any unforced or necessary fighting by Turkey will be devastating to their economy and their very fragile currency. We are helping the Kurds financially / weapons."
For the people in northeast Syria, when they start seeing United States troops leaving, it's terrifying because they feel like this is going to open the door for President Erdogan, and not just the Turkish army, but jihadist allies of the army.
Turkey announced it will now launch a military offensive against Kurdish fighters that they consider terrorists. Evangelical leaders fear this action will increase the risk that ISIS regroups and even put thousands of Christians in danger.
Evangelical support actually could be undermined if this decision goes forward. And the reason for that, Benjamin, is the fact that there are Christians literally in the line of fire.
Now, Chris Mitchell points out the U.S. hasn't completely pulled out of Syria. They do have military presence in Kobani and Manjib, and these are two strategic locations in the region. John.
The Family Research Council's Tony Perkins also serves as the chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. The commission is among those voicing concern about the withdrawal of American troops from Syria. Tony, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You have a unique voice as the chair of USERF, but also an influential evangelical advisor with the ear of the president. What was your direct message to President Trump about the pullout?
Well, we're very concerned about the implications this has for religious freedom in northeast Syria. What's happened there, really because of ISIS, a byproduct of that is people of different backgrounds, Kurds, Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, came together out of necessity, formed their own government, are working together, developed in their charter religious freedom of the American sort, meaning that you can not only believe a certain way, but you can practice that faith and you can change your faith, which is very unique outside of Israel in the Middle East. And so our concern was that this was in its, really in its infancy, beginning to develop. In U.S. presence, 6 months ago this was debated. There was a coalition force left there to protect the Kurds and the Christians in this unique society there in northeast Syria. with the withdrawal of U.S. presence there, this opens up to Turkey to come in after the Kurds. The Kurds have been kind of providing the protection to the Christians and the others in that region. So very concerned about the implications for religious freedom.
Tony, what kind of pressure did you and other evangelical leaders put on President Trump?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily describe it as pressure. It's just a matter of we're advocating for what we believe to be the right policy. And, you know, whether the president hears it or not, we're going to speak it. And I'll have to say that I was very encouraged not to be the only voice on this, that almost without exception, evangelical leaders and others have spoken out about this policy. Because look, we told the Kurds that, look, you know, we don't agree with you on everything, but you've been providing a very strategic role in this region of the world. We were partners in going after ISIS. You provided critical security in that region for this blossoming democracy, and so we got your back. Well, we've kind of withdrawn that pledge.
Does this hurt President Trump with his evangelical base?
Well, we'll wait to see what happens. You know, there's been some signals that you know, they're trying to clarify this policy, and it's, you know, maybe misinterpreted as broad as it may not have been as broad as it was interpreted. I don't know. I hope the president will do the right thing, will maintain this small presence of U.S. military forces, just 1,000. But 6 months ago, there was an intense effort to negotiate a allied presence there, coalition presence with France, Germany, and others. And we're talking about 1,000 troops. And these are mostly advisors and trainers for the other forces that are there. And so this is not, the return on the investment is so much in disproportion. We're getting so much more out of these 1,000 troops than what it's costing us.
Tony, the administration champions religious freedom around
Yes.
the world. Trump says that he's fighting religious persecution. How does this pullout square up with that priority?
Well, that's where it's perplexing, because this administration has a stellar record. I was at the UN 2 weeks ago when the president, you know, challenged the global community to do more to protect houses of worship and religious sites, and challenged businesses to respect religious freedom in the workplace. So their record on religious freedom is unmatched. So this is perplexing for many. But here's the thing. Look, we have deep respect and appreciation for what this president does. I pray for him every day. But I have an obligation, as do other evangelical leaders, to speak out for what we know to be right, and to speak out in defense of others, first of the household of faith, and then others. We believe every human being should have a right to believe as they choose, and should be free to do so without threat of government or other actors.
Tony, always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Great. Thank you all for covering this important topic.
Thank you, Tony. The Supreme Court heard 3 major cases today that center on the question of identity. And as Paul Strand explains, they could have a big impact on a vast portion of the American population.
At the core of these cases is, what does the word sex mean when it comes to law? In 1964, when it first became illegal to discriminate on the basis of sex, it meant male or female. Now, at least one side in these cases is arguing it's a bit more complicated. The cases involve a transgender and 2 homosexuals fired from their jobs.
Millions and millions of people that go to work every day fearful for being fired for who they are, how they identify, and who they love.
Anthony Stevens, now calling himself Amy Stevens, was fired from Tom Ross Funeral Homes for saying he planned to start wearing dresses instead of the suits required of male employees.
What happened to me was wrong, and hopefully we can fix that and correct it from this point on.
Funeral homes owner Tom Ross worries his business will be wiped out if the court rules against him.
Now we face severe penalties because the ACLU is trying to change the law out from under us.
Homosexuals and transgenders in these cases are arguing they need to be treated equally in the eyes of the law. But the other side is arguing, beware the law of unintended consequences. Especially worried are women, who are saying they're going to lose some rights while these other folks are gaining them.
Penny Nance of Concerned Women for America points out women in prisons and women's shelters are scared they'll be forced into intimate quarters with transgender men.
Women in domestic shelters are filing suit over the fact that suddenly these women who have been so hurt are now having to share showers and common space with men. And so this is a serious issue.
Birch represented Harris Funeral Homes against the transgender fired from there. He said the justices seemed aware of the damage changing the definition of sex could have on American life.
The justices across the bench were troubled by the fact that the ACLU's argument would eliminate all sex-specific policies in the workplace, whether they be sex-specific showers, dress codes, restrooms, sports teams. Every single one of those things would have to go.
So, if the homosexual and transgender side thought they'd have an easy time with this court, apparently not, from the toughness of the questions the justices were asking of that side. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
A no-show on Capitol Hill today. Coming up, why the EU ambassador missed his scheduled testimony on the impeachment inquiry.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
A key witness in the impeachment inquiry against President Trump missed his hearing on Capitol Hill today.
The move comes after the State Department ordered America's ambassador to the European Union not to appear.
Abigail Robertson is on Capitol Hill with the latest. Abigail, no doubt this didn't go over well with the people running the impeachment inquiry.
Well, that's right, Jenna. Democrats have called the move an act of obstruction, and House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff responded today saying that they are issuing a subpoena for Ambassador Sondland's testimony, as well as related emails and text messages he kept on a personal device. Take a look.
We know from those text messages that diplomatic personnel raised a concern with him that military assistance was being withheld to secure help from Ukraine in the president's re-election campaign. We know that Ambassador Sondland had at least one discussion with a fellow diplomat on that very subject of why military assistance was being withheld. We know Ambassador Sondland was a key player in efforts to obtain a commitment from Ukraine to investigate a bogus conspiracy theory about the 2016 election, as well as Joe Biden and his son.
Now, Ambassador Sondland's lawyer has responded, saying that the ambassador traveled from Brussels to Washington to testify before the committee today, and he's profoundly disappointed that he did not get the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, Abigail, why the sudden shift to not allow him to speak with the committee?
Well, Republicans like Congressman Jim Jordan have come out and responded saying that they want to hear from the ambassador as well, but that they agree with the State Department that they believe that the circumstances that Chairman Schiff is bringing him in to testify are unfair and partisan, and they don't want to see him come speak to the committee under those circumstances. Take a look.
That treatment is the reason why the administration and the State Department said we're not going to subject Ambassador Sondland to the same treatment. And look, we were actually looking forward to hearing from Ambassador Sondland. We thought he was going to reinforce exactly what Ambassador Volker told us last week. But again, unfortunately, when you have a Speaker of the House who says we need to strike while the iron's hot, when you have a chairman of the committee who is so biased against this president that he wouldn't even tell us that he had met with, his staff had met with the whistleblower prior to the whistleblower filing the complaint. And frankly, this is a pattern with Mr. Schiff.
President Trump tweeted a similar sentiment, saying that he would love for the ambassador to testify, but he believes he would be speaking to a totally compromised kangaroo court. Back to you, Jenna.
All right, Abigail Robertson reporting on Capitol Hill. Thanks, Abby. Well, coming up, Campaign 2020. The latest on where things stand as Democrats work to whittle the field to take on President Trump and his case for 4 more years.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Welcome back. 2 Democrats in the 2020 campaign topped the polls as frontrunners in the still crowded field of candidates.
Now, Elizabeth Warren is making big gains, and Joe Biden is still leading many polls, even though he's getting caught up in the web of the president's impeachment inquiry. Here is the latest from the campaign trail.
That rallying cry helping energize this Democrat surging campaign.
Pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to make it in America.
Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax of 2 cents on the dollar amounts to a yearly 2% tax on those making more than $50 million. And with the Massachusetts senator winning 3 out of 4 recent polls, moderate voters are taking her 2 cents seriously. Bernie Sanders has an even more aggressive tax on extreme wealth. Both are favorites among liberal voters.
I just got out of the hospital a few hours ago, and I'm feeling so much better.
Days after suffering a heart attack, the 78-year-old is releasing a plan to ban corporate money from politics.
Let's break them up.
Warren wants to break up big tech giants she says violate antitrust laws.
Wall Street did not build America.
Wall Street is a familiar punching bag for the candidates, and Joe Biden's perch at the top of the field relies on his appeal to blue-collar Democrats. The former VP, facing some far-left plans like Medicare for All, wants to eliminate President Trump's tax cuts.
I believe there was tremendous corruption with Biden.
Hearing his name mentioned almost daily because of the impeachment inquiry into a presidential phone call isn't helping.
This guy, like all bullies, is a coward. He does not want to run against me.
Biden calls Trump's pay-to-play allegations in Ukraine unfounded.
This is not about me. It's not about my son.
Democrats in the bottom tier of the race are taking advantage of Biden's Ukraine problem while still keeping their fire trained on the president.
What we've got here is a walk-in indictment, walking in a red tie.
And here now for more on the 2020 White House race is Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections, and CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. Both of you, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Nathan, let's start with you and this impeachment inquiry. Is it having an effect when it comes to Democrats? Is it giving them a bounce in either polling or in their fundraising?
Well, it's a long answer, but we'll try to keep it short. I think, first of all, when we're talking about impeachment polling, we should be looking at the wording of these polls, because impeachment for some people means an inquiry, for some people means a full removal from office. Right. Based on the polling that we've seen the last couple of days, there has been some movement in support of at least opening an inquiry into the president. What was noted, Ron Brownstein, who's another political analyst, he wrote about the Monmouth and Quinnipiac University polls that just came out today, and how the president has consolidated support. Among those that approve of the president already, they are against impeachment. But there's still room to grow on impeachment polling from those that disapprove of the president. I mean, some Democrats have been slow to come around to this because they fear a backlash, and there are still some Democrats who are open to it. So I think we could see some movement in favor of this inquiry even in the coming days.
Yeah, David, what do you think? Do you think Democrats could see a big backlash here?
Well, a backlash potentially, because remember, the next 2 weeks we have the IG report and Inspector Horowitz coming out with that report, which basically could show that indeed Obama Justice Department officials did not disclose everything in that FISA warrant based on Carter Page back in the day. The point is that if that starts to muddy the waters more, then Democrats may be over their skis a little bit here. But there's so many twists and turns in this road, I have no clue. I wish I could figure it out. Someone needs to pay me for that.
Who's going to pay you?
Wait, hold on. I think you all do. Well, you don't.
A question for not me personally. Question for both of you, maybe. Mick Mulvaney, the acting White House director, is reportedly saying to crowds that he believes that if the impeachment inquiry process plays out, that the president could win as many as 45 states in 2020. Any scenario in which either one of you could see that happening?
Oh, Nathan, please take this.
No, I mean, even if there is even if there is a backlash against Democrats for this, we have such a polarized country right now that the 45 states I don't believe is achievable for any Republican or any Democratic candidate at this stage. But I'm amazed, though, at the level of confidence that some Republicans have about a repeat, but in reverse, of what happened to Bill Clinton and Republicans in the 90s, because I think there are a couple of differences. One is that what Republicans went after President Clinton for, I'd argue, is more personal. I mean, it was about an affair. They officially got him on perjury and obstruction of justice. What Democrats are trying to investigate the president for in this case are allegations of abuse of power or soliciting a foreign government. And I think for voters in the middle, that distinction may not matter for voters on either side, but for voters in the middle, I think that the professional or going after that political power is different than going after someone on something personal.
David, Joe Biden's campaign, they're lagging behind in fundraising, behind Warren, Sanders, even Buttigieg. Is this linked to this Ukraine story and all of this impeachment talk?
I don't really think it's really linked to it. I think it's linked to Joe Biden's poor debate performances, and also Elizabeth Warren doing very well and Bernie hanging in there too. And so, no, I think this is all on Joe Biden. I mean, he has not had good debate performances, and even though he's getting a little bit better, the oxygen and the money clearly are in the progressive camp right now, and because of that, Joe Biden's numbers are just not going to be there. I mean, Joe Biden, what's his reason for running? His reason for running, I can beat Trump, and oh, by the way, I can beat him like a drum. How many times have we heard that? I mean, if that's going to be the rallying cry, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll work, but it doesn't work with fundraising right now.
Yeah, Nathan, what do you make of Elizabeth Warren's, recently or just surging in the polls? What to account for this?
I think she's kind of been trying to be the tortoise in the race, the slow and steady rise. I actually think she has this selfie strategy, which some people might, think is silly, but in a campaign where every candidate's going to have millions of dollars, trying to communicate in very traditional ways on television and radio, spending a few hours after every event and taking a selfie with these people that they're going to share with their friends and family, I think is a way to build momentum organically. And I think that's part of it. I think it's still complicated as long as Bernie Sanders is in the race. It's complicated for her to overtake Vice President Biden, but we have a long way to go. Just a quick note about how far we have to go in this race. The Super Bowl is the night before the Iowa caucuses. We have to finish the entire NFL season, the whole thing, before any Democratic voter actually casts a ballot.
Thanks for that reminder.
Good perspective.
And the tortoise and the hare analogy.
That's right.
Well, Nathan, David, thank you guys for being with us today. After facing backlash for an act of faith in her courtroom, a Texas judge is speaking out. That story next.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
After a convicted police officer received her prison sentence for murder, Judge Tammy Kemp then gave the woman a Bible.
After the brother of Botham, John, forgave her for her crime, Amber Geiger asked the judge if she could be forgiven and what to do next.
She said, well, I don't have a Bible, I don't own a Bible, and I don't know where to start. And that's when I said to her, I will get you a Bible.
Judge Kemp pointed Geiger to John 3:16. Though some have been critical of Kemp for bringing faith into her courtroom, she says that's what she felt called to do. Yeah. Taking a stand for her faith.
Yeah, no kidding. Bold move.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.